It was around 3 a.m. when I heard something moving outside my window. New York City is known as the city that never sleeps. But have you ever wondered what's awake when the rest of the world is dreaming? Behind the neon lights and the towering skyscrapers lies a grit that modern history can't wash away. I've spoken to men and women who work the graveyard shifts, the security guards, the tunnel inspectors, and the nurses who see the things we aren't supposed to. These aren't just urban legends. These are 3 terrifying accounts from the NYC night shift that will make you rethink being alone in the dark. Tonight, we look into the 44th floor glitch, the mimic in the subway, and the patient who never checked out.
It was around 3 a.m. when I heard something moving outside my window. The first story comes from Marcus, a security veteran who worked at one of those old money financial towers near Wall Street. It's a place of marble floors and mahogany walls, where the silence at 2 a.m. feels heavy, almost suffocating. Marcus spent most of his nights in a small booth, watching over 100 CCTV feeds, a sea of gray and black monitors. Most nights were quiet, filled with the hum of the air conditioning and the occasional clink of the building settling. But one rainy Tuesday, a motion sensor on the 44th floor triggered an alert that would change his life forever.
The 44th floor was completely empty, gutted for a massive renovation, and sealed off to the public. Marcus looked at the monitor and saw a woman in a sharp, padded shoulder blazer walking briskly toward a cubicle that shouldn't have been there. She sat down and began typing with an intensity that seemed frantic, her fingers moving in a blur across a non-existent keyboard. The strangest part wasn't her clothes or her speed. It was the fact that the floor was pitch black, yet she moved with perfect clarity. Driven by duty and a growing sense of dread, Marcus grabbed his flashlight and took the service elevator up to investigate. It was around 3 a.m. when I heard something moving outside my window. When the doors opened, the air hit him like a physical wall. It was cold, stagnant, and smelled strongly of stale cigarette smoke. This was impossible. The building had been strictly smoke-free for over 20 years. He panned his light across the floor, seeing nothing but rolls of carpet and desks wrapped in thick, protective plastic. He reached the spot where he saw the woman on the monitor, but the area was deserted and silent. Then his light caught something. The plastic wrap over a keyboard was pressed down, showing fresh, deep finger indentations. There was no one in the room, but the indentations remained, as if someone was still pressing their weight into the keys. It was around 3 a.m. when I heard something moving outside my window. Terrified, Marcus retreated to the security booth and did the only thing he could think of. He played the tape back. As he watched the recording of his own arrival on the 44th floor, his blood turned to ice. On the screen, he saw himself standing right next to the woman, his flashlight beam passing directly through her transparent form. But she wasn't typing anymore. The moment he had entered the room, she had stopped and turned her head. For the entire 20 minutes Marcus was on that floor, the woman on the screen was staring directly into the camera lens, unmoving, watching him. Marcus quit the next morning, convinced that some echoes of the past don't just stay in the walls, they watch us. Our second story takes us beneath the streets, into the decaying veins of the city, the MTA subway tunnels. Elias, a track inspector, was working the G train line in Brooklyn around 3:30 a.m., a time when the tunnels feel like an alien world. He and his partner Sarah were walking the tracks, spaced about 200 yards apart to check for structural cracks. The only sounds were the drip of water and the distant, rhythmic hum of the third rail. Suddenly, Elias heard Sarah's voice coming from a dark utility alcove just ahead of him. "Elias, come look at this." The voice was clear, but it sounded slightly slowed down, like a record playing at the wrong speed.
It was around 3 a.m. when I heard something moving outside my window. Elias started toward the alcove, but his radio suddenly chirped, the static loud in the oppressive silence. It was Sarah, her voice coming from the opposite direction, sounding panicked. "Elias, where are you? I'm back at the junction. I don't see your light." Elias froze, his heart hammering against his ribs, as he realized the voice in the alcove couldn't have been her. He slowly raised his flashlight and panned it into the darkness of the small service room. There, huddled in the corner, was a figure wearing an identical MTA vest, but it had no face, just a smooth, pale mask of skin where features should be. It spoke again in Sarah's perfect voice, without moving a mouth. "Elias, come look at this." Finally, we go to a historic, underfunded hospital in the Bronx, a place where the walls have seen a century of suffering. Elena, a night shift nurse in the geriatric ward, tells a story that still keeps her awake during the daylight hours. Every night at exactly 4 a.m., the call button for room 412 would ring at the nurse's station, showing a red alert. The problem was that room 412 didn't exist anymore. It had been converted into a cramped storage closet 3 years prior. For weeks, the staff ignored it as a simple wiring glitch. But Elena began to hear something else. A faint, rhythmic knocking was coming from inside the closet, a sound of bone hitting wood. One night, fueled by a mix of exhaustion and curiosity, Elena opened the door to the closet. Inside, sitting on a stack of yellowed hospital linens, was an elderly man in a vintage tie-back patient gown. He looked up at her with milky eyes and asked in a raspy whisper, "Is it time for my walk yet?" Confused, Elena checked his wristband, finding a brittle, yellowed plastic strip dated 1974. She turned to her radio to call for a doctor, but when she looked back, the man had vanished from the pile of laundry. However, as she caught her breath, she looked at her reflection in the closet's glass door. The man was standing directly behind her in the reflection, his cold blue hand resting firmly on her shoulder. The next day, Elena dug through the hospital's paper archives and found a horrifying truth from 40 years ago. A patient named Arthur had been accidentally left in room 412 during a chaotic floor renovation and shift change. He was forgotten for 3 days and died of neglect in that very room before it was turned into a closet. NYC is built on layers of history, and sometimes those layers bleed into our reality when the sun goes down. Whether it's a corporate office, a subway tunnel, or a hospital ward, the city never truly forgets its residents. So, if you're working the night shift tonight and you feel a cold breeze or hear your name called, don't turn around.